Hello, Meg here, and I am your Monday substitute host here on the Pagan Perspective. So this week's topic comes from our very own Yucca, who asks, does your spiritual practice or path influence your career choice? So for me, the short and simple answer is yes, absolutely. However, this video should be longer than 20 seconds, so I think I will take some time and elaborate a bit more on that. So I, of course, as most girls do, I started out as a babysitter. At the time, I just needed to help the family out financially a bit, and so especially at that age, I wasn't in the mindset to ask myself, if I would feel some sort of fulfillment in this job, or if there's some sort of spiritual connection with it. I just did it because that's what was necessary at the time. However, now looking back at it, I could easily argue that actually babysitting is not such a frivolous job, in that it does have its influence and its impact on the community itself. So let me explain that. Let's see. Children, especially during the age that we tend to babysit them, which is, for me, in my experience, it's 6 months to about 10 years old. It's a time period in their life where to feel loved and to have that sense of security are crucial to their development. And so being a child care provider, it's very, very important to actually provide that love and security that that child needs, because their parents, unfortunately, have to go back into the workforce. And for the parents themselves, if they don't feel that they left their child in good hands, in trustworthy hands, they're not going to be so keen on going back into the workforce, and that will have an impact on the employment and the economy of the community, and it could make that line between the community being considered poverty level or above. And so babysitting, it's not just one of those idle jobs where it's just to keep a young adult busy and to give them some extra pocket money. It really does play its role in the community, and childcare, for that matter, plays its role in the community. And so it was an important job. And even though at the time, like I said, I didn't have that mindset regarding the job itself, I was raised to give due diligence and to really do my job in its fullest, and to make sure that that what I'm doing is for the greater good. And so I took my babysitting job very seriously, and that stayed with me. Yes, and so when it did come time to actually making a career choice, again, because of the way I was brought up, where we hold high value in any profession that helps the community or the environment, and also that my spiritual path, it's the same thing. In order to help with that progression and that expansion, one has to give back to the community as we take, so reap and sow and reap. And so for me, it was just very, very easy and very obvious to make the decision to go into education. It's just something that I was always drawn to. It's something that I really loved and I had a constant interest in. And so it just felt right and good to go into that career. However, to be in the education field, one must be educated, and studies cost moolah. And so to finance my studies, as cliche again as it sounds, just as much as being a babysitter is cliche, I financed my studies by being a cashier and a waitress. So working as a cashier, I eventually made my way up to store manager, and so I was running the store. And waitress, I stayed waitress. But they're both very similar in that it's customer service, and it can be very difficult at times because people tend to really dump all their heavy stuff on the person in front of them, and it usually falls on the cashier and the waitress. And I had to learn and tell myself, I had to make that spiritual connection with the job in order to get through it, in order to handle those moments and get through them without any personal hurt from their words and their aggression. And so to do that, I had to tell myself that everyone is on their own path at their own time, and maybe right now they really need to unload this negativity. It's unfortunate that it has to fall on someone else, but humans are herd animals, and so we kind of need to lash out on each other sometimes, unfortunately. And so I just had to tell myself to let it go. They're not upset with me. It's something else that's bothering them, and they need to work on that themselves. I can't really cure them of this anger. Sometimes I might give a little suggestion, politely or not, but for the most part, I just live and let live. I just had to let them go and try to get through it. And then I had to remind myself that not everyone is like that, and for the most part, me being there and being attentive to the customer's needs makes a difference. And here's the key part for any of you cashiers or waitresses or waiters out there. That the key is, I know can be very challenging, and sometimes we just don't feel like it, but smiling makes all the difference. And the thing is, we don't know where or what that customer is coming from, and so they might just be having a really crappy day, and you giving them that little smile could make the difference. And just as babysitting is a little ripple in the water that expands to greater things, that smile that you give, whether willingly or not, that smile that you put on your face can make that little ripple to grow into bigger things. You can make that person's day, and then that person goes on to do something good and to make someone else's day and whatnot. And that ripple grows and grows and grows. And that's the progression and the expansion of humanity in a small detail, but that grows into a big one nonetheless. And so, so if you're a cashier or waitress out there, I know it's hard, but hang on, chin up, and smile. And for those of you who are not cashiers or waitresses or waiters, be nice to your cashier and your waitress or waiter, please. It's not their fault that you're having a bad day, and if it is, well, that's unfortunate. However, moving on. So yes, so I had to tell myself that spiritually, in some way, minute as it was, to feel some sort of minute fulfillment in what I was doing in those jobs, I had to make that connection. So that's what I would tell myself to get through that job, as temporary as it was, because I knew that too was a job that I would not be able to do long term. So I also had to remind myself it was temporary, but even if it's temporary, I still have to give it my all, due diligence, give it my 100%, and yes. Also, another approach that I took to making that spiritual connection with my job choices, or having my spirituality influence my job choice, more so, if that's the topic anyway, is that at the end of interviews, I would actually have questions for the interviewer. And I knew that just as important as it was for me to have some sort of spiritual connection in what it was I was doing, I also had to know that where I was doing this job was also had some sort of spiritual connection. And so I would ask questions regarding the establishment. I would ask, where do your resources come from? How green, how clean is this establishment? Are you involved in any sort of community organization or program that provides, for example, not just employment for students such as myself, but also for people over 55 where they're just getting out of a career, but they still need to work, and at that age it's very difficult to find a job, or for retired people who need that bit of extra cash in order to make ends meet and to keep things going. Do you donate, whether financially, or do you donate because, again, working in a store, at a restaurant, there's food involved, so do you donate to soup kitchens or to food pantries? What is it that you do for the community that put your establishment above the rest? And for me, their answers were just as important as my answers were for them. And in the end, even if they said that they want to take me on, if I felt that their establishment was going against some or all of what I stood for, or was hindering the progression or expansion of humanity, or for the greater good for not just humanity but for the environment, I would turn them down. I would say no. Now, some people think my approach is rather snobbish, or also a bit stupid on my part, but I know that I would not be able to hold on to a job, whether temporary or long-term, if I did not feel good, not just in what it was I was doing, but also of where I was working. And I would not be able to work for an establishment that is doing more harm than good. I would not want to give them my time and my labor and participate in the degression of humanity and the hindering expansion. And I also take this approach in everything in life, in whatever I do. And for me, in my spiritual practice, the jobs that I do that I'm not paid for are just as important as the job that I do that I am paid for. And so I am very involved in the community in that I do a lot of community service, and I make sure that the service that I'm giving it actually is doing good. It's not just to put money in someone's pocket. Also, there was another point that I wanted to make. Oh yes, well, my career. So my career is in education, and I can now honestly say that I am fulfilled in my career. And for me, of course, the saying goes that children are our future, and you can't have a flower without a seed, and children are our seeds, and so we need to tend to our seeds, and it all starts with them. And so to have a brighter, better future, we do our parts. We do what we can do while we're here now, but our children, it's going to be their home. It is their home now, of course, but they're going to be the next leaders. They're going to be the ones to make the new decisions, and we need to help them blossom now so that this earth can continue to blossom. Yes, so I love my job, and I go into my job not thinking that it's my job. It's, for me, it's a part of my life. It's not work, if that makes any sense. So yes, my spirituality does it does influence my career choice. It did influence my career choice, I should say, and it continues to influence the work that I do outside of my career as well. So until next time, I'll see you again at the end of March, if not before. And so take care and safe journeys.